When people discuss the birth of the Turkish Republic, the conversation usually splits into two camps. One side mourns the death of a grand empire, while the other celebrates a magical year zero, a moment where a modern nation was summoned from the ashes, rejecting everything that came before it. Both of these perspectives are historically illiterate. History doesn't simply snap in half overnight, and nations are rarely built out of thin air. Historian Ilber Ortayli argues for a different reality. The Republic of Turkey is actually the exact same Turkish Empire, continuing under a new name and a reorganized structure. If 1923 wasn't a sudden rupture, our entire framework for understanding Mustafa Kemal is wrong. To understand why he built the Republic, we have to stop looking forward from the revolution and start looking backward into the empire. The men who founded the Republic didn't descend from the clouds. They were the direct products of late Ottoman modernization. They were elite officers, trained in the very military academies established by Sultan Abdülhamid II. They operated with the mindset of the kurmay, the staff officer. This is the core of the Turkish historical identity, the army nation, where the military and the state are one and the same. This group defined themselves through a calculated military pragmatism, a sharp contrast to the reckless ideological dreamers like Enver Pasha, who had led the empire into the ruin of World War I. When the empire collapsed, these officers realized that to save the Turkish state itself, they had to amputate the 600-year-old Ottoman dynasty. The abolition of the Sultanate functioned as a cold strategic maneuver to isolate the state's survival from the collapsing fate of a single family. This same realism dictated their geography. Instead of launching doomed campaigns to reclaim lost imperial lands, they focused on the Misaki Milli, the National Pact, establishing borders they could actually defend. This wasn't a total demolition. The underlying institutions of the Ottoman state did not vanish after the revolution. These ancient institutions merely changed their clothes. Late Ottoman courts and councils directly transformed into modern republican bodies like the Yargıtay and Danıştay. Even radical-looking changes like the new civil code quietly retained established traditions, such as marital property separation, to avoid a total social shock. The Republic acted as a high-efficiency modernization of the late Ottoman state, built to withstand the pressures of a new, global century. The kurmay strategy succeeded in its primary mission. They salvaged the state, built a society of citizens, and officially adopted the name Türkiye, a title the rest of the world had used for them for centuries. But while the state and military continuity was a triumph, Ortayli notes that a severe cultural rupture occurred in the process. Rapid top-down reforms, particularly the sudden change of the alphabet, severed the generational link to the past almost instantly. This left a modern generation unable to read their own grandfather's letters, a level of cultural disconnect that is nearly impossible to find in other modernized nations like Japan or Russia. This was the trade-off. The founding generations successfully salvaged the Turkish state through centuries of institutional knowledge, but in doing so, they created a nation that struggled to read its own past. 1923 was not a rebirth, but a hard-fought preservation.